Welcome to White Space, DCD's weekly roundup of news from the data center industry with me, Peter Judge, and Max Smollatz. So Max, you've been thinking about AI.
Yes. AI, I'm convinced, is the next big battleground for cloud vendors, because basically everybody now offers AI tools in the cloud, but whoever does this best, is going to win big. And IBM has been making some moves with Watson. We know about that. But what they've done this week is they've taken a bunch of open source frameworks and put them on the Power platform and sort of like to let them use NVLink. NVLink is something developed by NVIDIA. It basically increases the speed of data exchange between the CPU and the GPU. And it's much faster than PCIe, which is traditionally used for this kind of thing. And this is something that Power can do and the x86 can't. So on x86, you can use NVLink just between GPUs, but when it comes down to the processor, it still has to take the slower route. At the moment, only Power can do NVLink between the CPU and the GPU, and it sounds wonderful. And IBM is basically integrating all of these open source frameworks with its Power architecture and distributing them for free.
Oh, right, okay.
And obviously they will offer paid support, like often people do in these cases, but it's interesting, like IBM has restyled itself as an open data company, and they really, they practice what they preach. It's great.
Good. And at this point, AI seems to be hinging on more power underneath, faster interconnects and better processing, which could just be that's what people are talking about this week because it's Supercomputing 16, the SC16 show. But also at Supercomputing, I've heard about an edge data center, which might seem a bit odd, but Aquila, they're people we know that make liquid-cooled supercomputing in open compute racks. That's what they launched in September, and they've taken that along to SC16, but saying, oh wait a minute, we're also going to do a small version of this that's ruggedized, modular, and suitable for edge applications. Okay. The benefit of this being a liquid-cooled system is that liquid-cooled systems are more easy to put anywhere you like.
Yes, and those require maintenance, right? There's no fans, there's pumps, but they're presumably internal, there's no filters to clog up.
Yeah, that's right. And you haven't got to put it in a special data center environment. This can go in a warehouse, in a wiring closet, or whatever. What they've done is they've teamed up with a modular data center, modular equipment maker, really, TAS, and they've got this. It's not exactly as micro as some of these other ones we've heard of. It's 8 foot square, but pretty powerful, and it's going to be available in the new year.
So what, is it like an all-inclusive box? Like you just plunk it somewhere?
And everything in it is liquid-cooled. The switches, the storage, and the servers. Using the system in Aquila, which comes from Clustered Systems, which is a cold plate system. So the liquid. There's a barrier between where the liquid goes and the electronics.
Oh, yeah.
Cold plate. It's liquid cooling done the sensible way. At least that's the way they present it.
Okay.
Good. And that's not the only edge computing announcement we've had this week. Vapor.io, air-cooled data centers that have a circle of racks with a sort of effectively creates a chimney in the middle. The air circulation is efficient, and you produce these kind of little modules. Well, they're probably but roughly the same kind of size as the ones which Aquila's talking about. And again, standalone, sits on a concrete floor, doesn't need a lot of infrastructure around it. So Vapor's been doing that for a while, but they're majoring on their DSIM, their management, their sort of orchestration kind of idea. So their Vapor Edge is one of these units which you can park workloads on if they need to be close to the edge where that unit is, or shove them back to a centralized server at other times. So it's kind of mobile, it's flexible, and it doesn't even have to use the vapor chamber. You can do this stuff on conventional hardware as well, apparently.
LinkedIn today opened its new data center. And this data center is interesting for all sorts of reasons, because it's meant to serve as a new template for LinkedIn. So LinkedIn used to sort of like do a bunch of retail colocation back in the old days, and now they're switching to wholesale. They're developing their whole hyperscale model. And I mean, LinkedIn is not like the biggest data center user in the world, right? But their requirements are growing and following, acquisition by Microsoft. A bunch of technology they're developing could be, like it could make its way into Azure. So LinkedIn, for example, has developed its own switch. And this switch is now going to serve as the foundation for the new data center. So they opened the facility in Hillsboro, Oregon. It's got 100G networking throughout. It's got IPv6 from day one. It's got cooling doors. So there's no hot and cold racks. All of the cooling is essentially cabinet based, and a bunch of other things. I'm not going to name them all, but anyway, very, very interesting facility. It's open. They're probably going to talk more about this. We've been covering it for a long while, so I'm like, it's done now. It's just 8 megawatts though.
Oh wow!
It's not huge, but it's going to be interesting. Whether LinkedIn builds more sites like this.
Is it in it? Do they own the building?
No, the building is owned by Infomart. But
it's like a hall or a section of that building where LinkedIn's doing its
stuff. Infomart has an entire campus, and LinkedIn has got 2 buildings, 4 data halls, and yes, it's very much doing its own thing. But there's more LinkedIn news.
Yes, more LinkedIn. Quickfire news from LinkedIn.
There's good news and bad news. While LinkedIn is doing very well in the US, it's doing a lot worse in Russia, where it is about to be blocked by Roskomnadzor. So you've heard the story. Russia has passed some data residency laws, which many people find unreasonable, despite the fact that Germany has very similar laws, and you can't blame Germans for being unreasonable. Yes. Roskomnadzor, the Russian watchdog, told all of the Western, big technology companies that if they want to store Russian citizen data, they have to do it on servers located in Russia. And a bunch of people haven't done it. LinkedIn is just the first victim. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't think like Facebook or Google have actually transferred their servers, but this is shots fired.
Right. Nothing specific about LinkedIn, possibly. It's just that they're the first people to get.
They are not the worst offenders.
All right, okay. And everyone else is trying to negotiate a stay of execution before they're... Right.
Yes. And in the coming days, we will have an opinion on this from Guy Wilmer, who actually runs a data center in Russia. Yep. So he should know.
Okay. My quick fire. Microsoft is buying wind power for its data center in Cheyene. Wyoming. I mean, the wind power is interesting. It's one of the typical sort of power purchase agreements, I think, with a slightly different contract structure. It's a new contract structure that's being produced by the finance company concerned, and alliance risk transfer. But the other thing, which is particularly interesting in this one, is that Microsoft is making the backup diesel generator. Microsoft is making the backup generators for this site available to the local power grid. These are generators that run on natural gas, so potentially slightly greener than diesel, but also the big green benefit here is that the local grid would be building more capacity otherwise if it didn't have the option to use these when things are tight. This is very interesting because specifically when talking to people at Zeta Structure, people said this is the kind of thing they would never do, other data center owners, because those diesel generators or generators of whatever kind are supposed to be there for their own emergencies. What if they have an emergency when the grid needs them?
Exactly, it's very likely.
Yes, well, There'll be protocols in place to trade off those risks, and if it means less emissions, it's good. Right. News from Africa.
Yes, we don't talk about Africa too often, but this development is actually interesting because it's 24 megawatts.
Mm-hmm.
It's no mean feat. Yes. So a company called Terraco, which at the moment has, I think, just 6 megawatts under management, is building another 44 in 2 different places in South Africa. So this particular campus is in Kempton Park. It's close to Johannesburg, close to the airport.
Yeah.
And basically, the main idea here is it's 24 megawatts in South Africa.
Right.
So there's a lot of demand there, but building is obviously difficult. Infrastructure is old, is unupgraded. So good luck to these guys, and we're gonna follow the development as it.
Right, that explains why I saw that 50 megawatts in some of the headlines. 50 megawatts is the total. They've got some.
Is the total? They're also
They're
already building a data center in Johannesburg, and I think that's about 20 megawatts.
So it all adds up. Okay, more data centers everywhere. That's all for this week. See you next week on White Space.
Bye bye.